Hey everybody, we're down here at Palo Market Streets in lovely downtown San Francisco, down here by the cable car turnaround. So if you're in the area, please do come by. We're down here, this is a protest that's called by the Answer Coalition of San Francisco. For more information on the Answer Coalition, you can go to their website, answercoalition.org, and they'll have plenty more information about what's going on. So we're glad that you're here watching. Please let your friends and neighbors know about us. We'll be here for the next hour or so, and hopefully we'll get a bunch of people here showing up for the demonstration.
Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Sneaking up behind you. Good to see you here.
Yeah, it's good seeing you too, man.
Right on. Are you broadcasting live off of that?
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, with a hotspot.
What is that? That's a
Samsung Galaxy camera.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
It's got a
Telephoto.
That's a kick ass.
Yeah, this is the ones we're going to be. Hopefully, this is the prototype for the ones that we're going to be distributing via Global Revolution.
Right on.
So this
Awesome.
is a hotspot.
Well, let me know.
I will.
Let me get a good shot with you and that camera there. Thanks, brother. Right on.
No problem.
Yeah, let me know when you get that all set up. I'd be glad to join up on the team.
Okay.
See what's
Well, that's
going
what I've
on.
been working on. You know, it's like
Yeah.
you know, I got money in the bank. I've got a nonprofit status.
Great.
I got fundraisers out there for raising money, and it's just I'm waiting for the checks to clear before I can start spending money and get all the paperwork out of the way first, right?
Right.
But it's going to be a real deal, and we're going to be providing free web space, and I'm going to dump the Ustream app, and I got one, you know, my app that I'm going to be using,
Nice.
and actually Ustream already made me an offer on it. So, you know, I told him, I said, well, I have to think about it, but I'll probably license it to him, you know, because it doesn't do you any good just to keep a monopoly. It's better to spread it around, even if I am in direct competition with them, because I'm not really in competition.
Yeah.
You know. Because the more people that use it for them, is the more money that goes into our little deal too.
Yeah.
So you were down at the post office. Can you tell people what was going down over at the Berkeley post office? This is James. He's a prominent live streamer.
How you guys doing? From what I saw when I talked to the campers and Corporal Nick, those of you that know him, I did witness a conversation between him and a supervisor asking how the camp felt about being raided and how many were going to stay, how many were going to go, things like that. At that time, it was undetermined how many were really going to stay. We weren't sure if there was anybody really going to stay, but they knew that there was a few hardcore that were really willing to protest to keep the post office. Most of the camp did pack up and leave. I believe it was the day before yesterday, because they were threatened with imminent raid and arrests. So a lot of them have been beat up in the past by the police, and their PTSD kind of struck them and said that they didn't want any more of that. But they were there to support keeping the post office open. And I did see most of them over in San Francisco the other day. We were down at Chalky Bay in front of a Fed. There was a good showing there. So all is well that ends well. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the post office. Probably going to be sold. You know, the corporate elitists and the bankers and everybody, they have control. So, you know, the only thing that'll stop them is either
Burning it down.
us putting our foot down or more money. And since we don't have any money, we put our foot down.
Okay, great. Thanks, sir.
Man. Yeah, you bet.
And if you're in Berkeley, they're having a GA tonight at 6 p.m. right in front of the post office.
I heard we were planning on maybe going over there after this gets going, and I came over to take some photos, something to put up on my website.
Yeah, this is the commie demonstration. We are going to have a Occupy/anarchist demonstration down here tomorrow night at 4, starting at 4. And if we can get enough people to show up, then we're going to have a march to the federal buildings. So I wanted to separate. People said, oh, they're having one on Thursday, and I'm like, or Wednesday, and I'm like, well, now we want to do one on Thursday because you know, we don't support the same things that the commies do. And
yeah, everybody's got a different viewpoint, right?
yeah, and we're a little less dogmatic, you know, and our propaganda changes over time. Whereas when you see the commie stuff, it's pretty much the same shit. You know, it doesn't matter which war. And then they wonder why they have such a hard time getting people to take their handbills. It's because they've seen it before. So you got to evolve, and you have to keep evolving if you want to keep moving on. But not to knock their efforts. We're glad that anybody in the United States is out there protesting against the war against Syria.
Yeah, have you been up on that, on what's going on with around the country as far as that?
Well, there was big demonstrations in New York, and in Washington, D.C., there's going to be a big demonstration tonight, led by Code Pink and Medea Benjamin. So she's probably off doing her thing right now.
Cool.
So, and we all love Medea. Big shout out to Medea Benjamin from Code Pink. She's everywhere at once.
You know that term, one percenter?
Yeah.
You know, when I talked to some anarchists one day, and they said the one percenters that a lot of people think that are, you know, they talk about the bankers. They shook their head and they said, we're the one percenters. And as it is, really, those of us that are out here, we are the 99%.
Yeah, we're
There's
just
only
a small
1% of
point.
us here, and there's a lot of people that are lazy. They sit up there in the keyboards and they talk shit, and they walk by and they talk shit, but they aren't really.
Yeah, they're not committed.
Put their feet down on the ground, boots on the ground. You know, I'm a veteran, and I know what it means to stand for your country, and what it means for the honor and integrity of what it was originally founded on. So, you know, a lot of that has been forgotten, and we need to get back to basics and teach people our history so that we know, you know, where we came from and where we're going. Because without learning our mistakes of the past, how can we not repeat them? I mean, there's a lot of famous sayings out there that I could go ahead and regurgitate, but I usually like to have the quote in front of me for regurgitation.
Right.
You know, I think this is fantastic that we're all here. It seems like there's more and more people being awakened to the fact that it is a Nazi police state, you know, a fascist corporatocracy, all those new words.
We're going to be pulling.
All right, well, we're getting ready to.
I'll let you go ahead.
All right, it's good talking to you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, we're getting ready to start here, so we're gonna move in.
The slogans are endless war for empire. They had Yugoslavia, they had Iraq, they had Afghanistan, they had Libya, they want Syria, they want Iran. So that's why we say endless war for empire. So please join us, sisters and brothers. We're going to be starting this rally. As you know, or as you might have heard, it was recently announced that the British Parliament voted down. And I think it is exciting. I think it's a step. But we should note it was only 13 votes. And it's the only time in history, recent history, living history, that has happened. So they are facing, this is something monumental. Because even the US, only 9% of the public believe that war is the answer. Even though all politicians want war, benefit from war, have their pockets lined because of the money they take from war. So that's why we're here today, brothers and sisters, to send a message in this place, because it's such an intersection with different communities coming from all around the world that need to see. Not everyone in the US, actually the vast majority of people in the US do not want war. The vast majority of people in the US want those monies used for housing, healthcare, education. The vast majority of people in the US are tired of seeing the money spent on killing people, assassinating people, and causing genocide to the rest of the world. We want those resources used for our people. We want those resources used for us. So brothers and sisters, welcome today. Thank you for being out here. And we're going to start off with some chants. US NATO, hands off Syria! US NATO!
Hands off Syria!
US NATO!
Hands off Syria!
US NATO!
Hands off Syria!
US NATO!
Hands off Syria!
US NATO!
Hands off Syria!
US NATO!
Hands off Syria!
US NATO!
Hands off Syria!
US NATO!
Hands off Syria!
US NATO!
Hands off Syria!
US NATO!
Hands off
speakers lined up for you today. If this is your first march, this is your first protest, if like many of us, you think, how is it possible after the genocide they committed in Iraq, how is it possible to create the same formula of weapons of mass destruction, the same narrative that it's a dictator oppressing its own people? How is it that they can use that same exact formula to launch again another war? If you're like us, please welcome, sign up, learn more. The speakers are going to present different perspectives, different points of view that are equally important, brothers and sisters. So please welcome to this event. And the first speaker is Michael Wong from Vets for Peace. Please welcome Michael.
Good afternoon. It makes no military sense to believe that poison gas or any other weapons of mass destruction were used by the Syrian government. The Syrian government was in the process of winning their war using conventional weapons. They had no need to use anything else. However, there is a motive for the United States to claim that they used it, because that was the excuse that they set up for themselves to then do some kind of intervention. The United States claims that they have evidence that weapons of mass destruction were used, but they have not presented that evidence, nor have they indicated any specifics about that evidence that would make it credible. Why would the United States do this when so many of the fighters in the rebel side are fundamentalists who would oppose us, and some of whom are even allied with Al-Qaeda? If you look at what the United States has done in other nations in the Middle East that we have attacked, for example, Libya, for example, Iraq, what you see is that we overturned a dictator and produced a country that was fragmented, at war with itself, divided by different parties, and therefore easier to manipulate, play parties against each other, and try to go for oil and other deals that we want. What we have done is we've overturned dictators and left failed states or semi-failed states in their wake. This is a power grab by the United States. It is a blatant lie. You're going to have a number of speakers that will, I'm sure, articulate further some of the points that I've made, as well as some other points. But I want to just thank you all for being here, and I want to urge everybody to email and phone the White House and Congress. If you Google it, you can find your representatives, and you can find the White House. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the groups that are out here today. If you want to continue knowing more, this is a process. What just happened today in the British Parliament, the US has already announced that they're willing to go at it alone. So we have to keep a watchful eye. So please sign up at the table. Please sign up with some of the speakers to get on the list and find out more, because this doesn't end today. With all the marches, with every action, it's really just getting started. So, brothers and sisters, here's a chant. The real road to peace, U.S. out of the Middle East. The real road to peace,
U.S. out of the Middle East.
the real road to peace,
U.S. out of the Middle East.
the real road to peace,
U.S. out of the Middle East.
the real road to peace,
U.S. out of the Middle East.
the real road to peace.
U.S. out of the Middle East.
All right, brothers and sisters, our next speaker. I'll get that soon. So our next speaker is Kurt. Kurt, are you up here? All right, from World Can't Wait, please welcome Kurt.
Well, you know, looks like we're here again. But it's not too late. It looks like Obama's going to wait until the UN inspectors leave before he pulls the trigger. So that gives us at least a couple of days to interrupt his march for empire. The intervention by the U.S. into civil war in Syria has nothing to do with so-called humanitarian goals, and it will only increase people's suffering. U.S. intervention has been ongoing, as the person before me said. It began with Saudi Arabia and Turkey funding various opposition forces. In every case, the U.S. decides its action based on its own perceived national interest versus other countries and regions. In this case, it wants a regime in Syria more compliant with the U.S. and less connected to Iran. Mainly, the U.S. seeks to project that it's in control of the world and can intercede where it will, denying either side victory. We should not base our opposition to this illegitimate, immoral, and unjust action against the people of Syria on whether what the U.S. does or how that action is decided upon is, quote, legal. The projected action of the U.S. bombing civilian areas is immoral and against the UN Charter. Unilateral action by the president is unlawful, except when he says it isn't. Many of the most terrible acts the U.S. government has taken, think of the nuclear bombs dropped on Japan, were, quote, legal. If the U.S. Congress were to endorse this bombing, as they very likely would be allowed to, would that make it right? No! We and the people of the world have no stake in either side of this brutal war in Syria. Both sides have committed atrocities. Attacking the Assad regime will allow it to claim the mantle of being anti-imperialist, which it is not, and could strengthen reactionary Islam fundamentalist trends in the opposition. Direct U.S. involvement will only heighten the tensions of the whole region, leading possibly to more involvement by Israel and Iran. Those of us living in the United States must demand that our government stop its intervention. Humanity and the planet come first. The U.S. empire is not part of the solution. It's a big part of the problem.
Yes!
The world can't wait. Stop the crimes of your government.
Yes!
U.S. NATO, hands off Syria! U.S. NATO!
Hands off Syria!
U.S. NATO!
Hands off Syria!
U.S. NATO!
Hands off Syria!
You know, I don't know if everyone has heard the news today. I think so. People have heard it here, that the British Parliament voted no, which is a very shocking development given, if you remember, the depiction of Tony Blair as George W. Bush's lapdog back years ago. It's been 70 years that Britain has been the junior partner of the U.S. ever since it lost its place as the preeminent world power. And the fact that that government voted, even though it was close, 285 to 273, against the war initiative indicates how deep and how profound the opposition worldwide is to a new war against Syria. A new war which, if it is launched against Syria, we have no way of knowing where it will spread to then. That is unknowable. In other words, what the Obama administration is doing is the most reckless, and if they launch this war, the most lawless kind of action without having any understanding of where it might lead, except knowing that it will just bring more death and destruction to the people of Syria who have suffered so much. Today, at just about the time that it was announced that the British Parliament had voted no, the lead story in the New York Times was that the Obama administration was leaking the information that it would go it alone. And that they might go it alone as soon as this coming Saturday, when the weapons inspection team is scheduled to leave. So, right now a call is going out for nationwide protest again this Saturday here in San Francisco at 12 noon at Powell and Market Streets. Are you going to be there? And you should go to the table over here and get some of these small, very quickly produced pink flyers, distribute them, tack them up, make more copies, let more people know, because the truth of the matter is this, that while it is very hard to stop an imperialist war, until the missiles are fired and until the bombs start dropping, we believe it is still possible to stop this war before it starts. But the only force that can do that is the people. So, we hope that everyone will be back here. We will be gathering, we will be marching Saturday at 12 noon. Join us then. Thank you.
So, brothers and sisters, again, we have a list of great speakers from different viewpoints, from different struggles. And our next speaker, which we want to make this connection.
You're being a distraction.
The fact that the military-industrial complex keeps oppressing people abroad. There's also a mechanism that oppresses people here at home. As people are being robbed of their resources here at home, people are being robbed of their jobs, of their wages, of good living conditions, of their housing. What keeps increasing here is the militarized police. Is the police that harms our community, imprisons our community. And so we're here for our next speaker. Is Dr. Crystal Lee Crane, speaking on behalf of the Justice for Alan Bluford Coalition. She'll speak more about the case of Alan Bluford, the struggle against police brutality, and why it's important to make the connection. Please welcome Crystal Lee.
Power to the people! All of us are here because our responsibility is to bear witness, not just to our own lives, but to the lives of people all across this country and all across the world. The people who are in Syria are the same people here who are suffering from the militarized state and from the militarized police that we all have to bear the brunt of. I feel as an educator that it's my responsibility not to just teach about these topics, but to also show the connection between what happens to our schools and to our students when we go out and bomb countries with bombs that cost over $1 million and then come back home and they tell us that we don't have money for schools.
Tell it.
We don't have money for health care. We don't have money for mental health because we're trying to go out and do a humanitarian mission in Syria when we have humanitarian missions that need to be taken care of here.
Yeah, tell it.
I feel like we forget that we are connected to every single human being in this world. If you're in solidarity with Syria, you're in solidarity with the family of Alan Bluford. Alan Bluford was killed May 6, 2012 by OPD officer Miguel Masso. Miguel Masso is still on the streets currently in Oakland, and he is around Oakland terrorizing people still. We need to be able to speak not only about police brutality, but how police brutality and war and the third-party contractors that they use to secure our protests, they're all the same. And we're not gonna stand for it anymore. Right? So between now and Saturday, we need to go to the streets. We need to call our representatives. We need to tell everyone that we do not accept the death of civilians as collateral damage to anyone's war. We do not accept civilians as property for war games. All lives have value. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Crystal Lee. And again, here's a chant. Billions for war, but can't feed the poor. We're fired up, we won't take it no more. Billions for war, but can't feed the poor. Fired up. Billions for war, but can't feed the poor. I don't know if you sound fired up enough. I don't know about that. We need to be fired up with this. They're going to hear us. The media's here. We need to make a connection to the public. So you fired up? Are you fired up? Billy's for war but can't feed the poor? Billy's for war but can't feed the poor? All right, brothers and sisters, let's see. We got to work on that. We got to work on that because we're getting people off of work. That's why we chose this time. It's for working people to come out, for working people to participate. And then we're going to have a march. So, let's get fired up, all right? Our next speaker is Jeff Mackler with the United National Anti-War Committee, again supporting the slogan, Hands Off Syria.
How many of you remember the slogan, Remember the Maine? The United States government argued that a handful of Cubans blew up an obsolete ship off the coast of Cuba and have been occupying since 1898 Guantanamo ever since. How many of you remember the weapons of mass destruction that the Iraqi government was alleged to have? And the display around the world? Well, the United States killed 1.5 million people and never found weapons of mass destruction. How many of you remember the 10-year Iraq-Iran war, sponsored by the United States, who funded Saddam Hussein, who used poison gas with the knowledge and consent of the American government that killed thousands of people? How many of you remember that? How many of you remember the Tonkin Bay incident, where a Vietnamese sampan, in effect, was charged with beginning a war against the United States by attacking a destroyer? And the result was 4 million people of Vietnam were slaughtered. Do you think this had anything to do with humanitarian intervention? I submit that there is no such thing. Do you agree? We are in the Middle East and in Africa and everywhere else in a war to recolonize the world in the interest of U.S. corporations. How many of you believe that the Syrian people, and only the Syrian people, have the right to determine their own future? That's what we call the right of self-determination. How many of you understand that if you read the American press today, you are seeing the beating of the drums, not for humanitarian aid, but for yet another war of conquest?
Oh yeah, no problem.
We need a united anti-war movement that says no to U.S. intervention in Syria, in Libya, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in fact, everywhere in the world. My view is U.S. out of the world. What right does the United States government have to intervene anywhere? I don't care if the United Nations or NATO, which slaughters at will, or any other international body that imperialism controls, votes to deny the people of the world their sovereignty. Now, on the weapons of mass destruction, we know one thing. The government of the United States has formally said, we don't care whether there is evidence or not. We believe there is evidence, but have they showed it to anyone? Has a single newspaper or reporter in the country presented the evidence? I'd like to see it. The one report 3 months ago from the United Nations, Del Ponto, was that the rebels were the ones that were accused of using sarin gas. So before I would make a decision on that question, I would know the facts. But I say this, no matter what, I don't give any justification for imperial intervention in Syria or anywhere else. I don't care what lies they manufactured or what horrific mistakes were committed by the Syrian government or by the Syrian rebels. In the latter case, those Syrian rebels happen to be the same Al-Qaeda forces that the United States declared as terrorists. And others are the legitimate heirs of a revolution of the workers of Syria against oppression. It's a very mixed and complicated situation. And it's not necessary to say no intervention anywhere for you here to make a decision as to which groups or governments or formations or opposition you support. We stand united against all U.S. intervention, against the bloodbath, and that's what's coming. Now, one other thing. They are persecuting Chelsea Manning, 35 years in prison, and they want to get their dirty hands on Edward Snowden. What did these criminals, in quotes, do? They told the truth, and they're being hounded across the globe and imprisoned for exposing the fact that the U.S. are the warmongers of the world, that the U.S. uses drone bombs everywhere in the world to kill innocent people, 5,000 in Pakistan. You are looking at the war machine revving up. Our obligation is to say no in all its aspects. There is no legitimacy to any intervention. We are not the cops of the world, and it's up to a united anti-war movement to demonstrate that in the streets as long as it takes until every U.S. soldier is brought home. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next speaker, again, continuing with his theme, we should never lose the opportunity that when we're together, we raise the consciousness of the public of our different struggles. And so our next speaker will talk about, again, what's happening at home. The fact that every 28 hours, a black man is killed in this country. A racist country that instills racism abroad. Our next speaker is Sanyaka from the Malcolm X grassroots movement. Please welcome Sanyaka.
Free the land, comrades. My heart's real heavy right now. Right, so I may not be coming off all fire and stuff, but my heart's heavy. The same folks responsible for a war on our people over here, a war on new Africans in the United States, same folks responsible for genocide of new Africans, same folks responsible for genocide of migrant workers. These same folks are responsible for all the blood of Arab lives spread throughout all these wars that have been going on, and their foreign interventions have to be challenged. We can't allow the same forces that are militarizing the police here, the same forces that are trying to expand their repressive apparatus here to get away with murdering thousands and thousands of more people in another country. Once again, we have to support the grassroots forces wherever they're at. We have to support grassroots struggle, righteous grassroots struggle, and uphold folks' right to self-determination and folks' rights to be able to deal with their own problems in-house. We want to alert folks to the fact that on October 25th through 28th, from October 25th to 28th in Oakland, a group known as Urban Shield. This is a conference that's being held that's going to be bringing together police forces and security forces from throughout the empire and also from around the world. Folks from Bahrain, police forces from Bahrain, police forces from the United Arab Emirates, all coming together to share out best practices on how to repress not only the people here, but best practices in repressing people throughout the world. The enemy is coming together, really showing themselves this time, showing how linked up they are, and we have an opportunity to show our opposition directly to all those forces and to highlight the way that they come together. Like the same forces from Israel, same forces in the OPD, the SFPD, LAPD, NYPD, all these same forces are sharing tactics. They're getting trained up together. They have the same imperial objective. All right, so October 25th through the 28th, there's going to be a series of demonstrations in Oakland. I invite everybody here to participate in those. I invite people to really show up for the comrades in Syria, really show up on these streets, come out to the different marches. A sister just handed me a flyer about on Saturday at 1 o'clock at UN Plaza. Folks are going to be meeting up there too. Definitely show up and really hold the sanctity of the lives of our Arab comrades who are really just going through massive brutality right now. We need to hold our folks in our hearts and to hold them through our hearts, through our actions. Really show up for folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senyak. And again, we're having speakers here waiting for people to come in. Our march is around 6, so we still have a few speakers lined up. Again, if you're joining us, just coming in, sign up to the table, get a flyer. As we said, there's a march on Saturday. Please get a flyer. March here at 12. As what we're saying, our next speaker is Salvador Cordón from the Faribundo Martí para la Liberación Nacional, FMLN from El Salvador. So please welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here this afternoon. The FMLN today issued an announcement addressing 3 points in this conflict in Syria. First of all, we want to present our solidarity to the relatives of all the victims of the conflict. We feel solidarity with them because we were in a war that we won, that we defeated the military government 20 years ago, but the war could carry on, and there were many dead people just because of the support of the United States. Ours was a home war. It was a Salvadorian war, but with the interference of the United States, it lasted double or triple the time that it should have, and also costed us tens of thousands of people dead. So we feel what the Syrian people are feeling right now. The second point is that we condemn the threats of invasion. No foreign country has the right to decide over what's happening in any country.
We're going to run this out until the battery
It's been the same since Grenada,
and then I got my
Dominican Republic,
backup.
Nicaragua,
Sully.
Iraq, Yugoslavia, Afghanistan. It's always the same argument. A humanistic approach that sent the U.S. to interfere in those countries. But we know that it's a lie. We know that there are no mass destruction weapons. So, but still, they keep saying the same thing. This time, we also condemn the use of chemical weapons. Whoever used of chemical weapons, they shouldn't have done that. Nobody should use that at any time. But we also trust that the investigation that the United Nations is doing is going to be efficient, and it's going to show who really used those weapons. Because the timing of the use of the chemical weapons is very suspicious. You know, it was a timing where the Syrian government was about to defeat the opposition. The opposition that was a proxy army for the United States. That it wasn't representing local interests. It was just being manipulated by the United States and its European allies in NATO. So we condemn any kind of invasion. Also, we also call for the international community to put pressure on these imperialistic countries not to interfere and to look for a negotiated political solution to this conflict, because we know what that costs. And also, here in the United States, there's about 47% of the people of the U.S. who are against this next war. We need to take advantage of that. We need to organize in the grassroots. We need to start distributing those leaflets, those little pink leaflets that everyone has, to bring more people on Saturday, to also educate more people that in order to stop this new invasion, we need the show of many people here. Thank you very much.
All right, we're running down on battery time here, folks. So I'm going to go ahead and reboot. I'm gonna go ahead and reboot the phone. I gotta get my phone working.
Money for jobs and